Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to the Skylar Fiction Show. I'm, of course, Skylar Fiction. How's everybody doing tonight? Well, I got to start by being honest with you. It would appear that my guest tonight has ghosted me and will not be appearing on tonight's show. I've been emailing him all day, no response. This is the same Brother Jay who was supposed to, I think, do a hangout with me. I believe it was Thursday night, and that didn't happen. So, because he canceled on me last minute, and he didn't bother to email me or tell me anything about canceling tonight. He just let this go on, even though making a video earlier today, which is just a little frustrating. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to give any Christians that are watching here the opportunity to be able to come in and have a conversation with me. If we don't have any Christians willing to do it, we have my friend Digital Hammurabi. Always happy, Josh. I should say that your channel is Digital Hammurabi, and I keep referring to you because it is you and your wife that do the channel. I was like, I thought about this the other day. I was like, I really should put Josh, but I couldn't remember if you use your last name in these videos, and I didn't want to dock you.
I usually go by the Right Reverend Bowen.
The Right Reverend Bowen. I love it. That's what I need to use. And then Skylar Fiction and the right. I almost said my real name right there, just for a moment. I almost literally said my real name on the camera, which would get me in some real trouble. I wonder, I should have a guessing game what people can say, because you could find my first name. I've messed up a couple of times and said it on other channels. I wonder what people think my real name is, like my real first name. Anyways, so I'm going to try to get some Christians in here. I put it out on Twitter. I put it out on Google+. I put it out on the Great Debate community. I'm hoping somebody will be willing to come in and have a chat tonight. It's Saturday night. I feel all right. It's going to be a good evening. And if not, you know what? We're going to do another Reading the Bible with Skylar Fiction. I think we had such a good time last time, Josh. I think, what was it, 2 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? And we're now to a fun part of the Bible. Now I think we're going to be in the Cain and Abel, and we'll see what happens. So I guess let's see. Let me check the email one more time. Josh, do you have the video up on the side? Can you see the side chat while things are going on?
I can.
If it's not a big deal, if not, because you can help me keep track if you see any Christians, because I'm terrible at this sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me check the mail. Nope, still no mail. Still nobody biting. So, someone, Xavier, says my first name is Hat God, and you know what? That's a good guess, and I can see why you would say that. Because we do need to start a religion of Skylar's Hat. We should call it. No, that's not a good name. Skylar's Religion of the Hat. I feel like we got to really get a good religion name for this. Like the Spaghetti Monster is fantastic, but we need to have something focused around the hat. Let's see. Spooky Bedhair. Your real name is Old Nick. That might be close. I'm not going to lie to you. You might be a little close on that one. Let's see here. Oh, I already got a question for you, Josh. And
Okay.
I may not be as familiar with this. Someone, Iron Chariot, asks Josh if the Mormons are right. Was Cain black?
I mean, I feel like the first part of that question answers it.
That's true.
I mean, it presupposes a real person.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry, I think Iron Chariot here probably knows what my answer is going to be.
Yeah. Oh man, Hatism. That's a Hatism. That's a good religion name. Welcome to the Church of Hatism, where all of your dreams come true, and our only goal is to make the world a better place, and to also spread the message of the good hat. It was upon this blessed day that he did put the hat upon his head and cover the heads of all those who did not have hair. For the hairless were blind in this world, and he did protect their heads against the burning sunlight. Oh my God, I am wired. Sorry guys, I got some energy tonight, so this should be fun. I am stalling a little bit, waiting to see if a Christian will come in here. What else we got going in? Someone says my name could be James Hatson. Oh, man.
What about Sam L?
Oh, Skylar is still recovering from that side 10 beating. Yeah, man, I'm just hurting. It's really, I'm really struggling with that beating side 10 gave me the other night. It was really vicious. But if that had actually happened, that might be something I could be recovering from. But you know what? No, and I don't want to smack talk. So you know what? Actually, he was funny because he actually made a little GIF and put it up on Twitter of me saying "Psy is awesome," and it just keeps looping itself over. And I thought that was pretty funny, man. That's a good sense of humor. And he's like, "Oh, if you don't like it, I'll take it." No, like, absolutely not. You leave that up, man. So I actually appreciate Psy being cool about it, and because I think I don't know if it was testy, but it was definitely passionate. I think towards the end. But I might actually I think I might be able to get Psy to come on and do a conversation. I should ask him to do a full conversation on my channel. I think that might be a kind of fun thing to do. Oh, look, we have a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ in the audience. I love that he worded it like that. Would you like to come in? I can't pronounce his name. 𝀭Support Matali, I think is the guy's name. If you want to come in, I just need you to email me at skylarfictionshow@gmail.com. I'll even put it over here. I don't like to make the link public because who knows what will happen if I do that. There it is right there. There's the link. If you just email me, I'm happy to have you in, and we can have a conversation. I hope that he just wasn't just telling me he's a follower of Jesus Christ just to announce it. Like I hope that was in the way of saying, "Hey, I'm interested in coming on your channel." I will change the title of this later on. I'm sorry. Like I just didn't want to go through and edit it right before. I rushed all the way home for this. So I was really hoping like last minute he was really going to message me like he was being just fashionably late, but I don't think that's happening here. Let's see here. Skylar, if Jesus is God and he sacrificed himself, was that suicide? I guess. Yeah, I guess you could call that suicide. But here's my thing, right? Like, I don't think it's really fair to say he died for our sins, right? Because he didn't really die as much as kind of went through some pain and then just came back a couple days later, right? Because I don't know, like, I wonder what people believe. Do you think, like, Christians believe that, like, was he in heaven for 3 days? I guess there's Christians who believe he went to hell, too. I think I've heard stories like that. But, like, what was that? Was that, like, limbo? Maybe he was, like, purgatory for a couple days? Was it just, like, once he, like, the lights went out, was it like he just woke up and bam, like 3 days later, he's in the tomb, moving that stone away and coming out? I don't know. What say you, Josh? What do you think when it comes to, yeah.
And I think the New Testament has some conflicting testimony concerning that, but, there's preaching to the souls during that period. I don't think that there's, I don't know if I'd hang my hat on anything that the New Testament says about it in particular, but
yeah. I wonder too, like, I don't know, like it is such a like, I wonder, like, when God, like, if, of course we're stepping into the Christian worldview here. Obviously I don't really believe in this God or Jesus or anything like that. But I wonder, like, trying to wrap my mind around it. Like, why, when God was figuring out, like, how he was going to be able to redeem mankind's sin, even though he knew it was going to happen in the first place. But he, at least he's trying to he's forward thinking. He's like, I've got to figure out a way to solve this problem that I kind of created in the beginning. So what I'll do is I'll be born in the flesh, right? And then what I'll do is I'll let the Romans crucify me. Like, I don't know, like, if I were God, I'd probably just be like, maybe I'll just, like, die in my sleep for their sins, right? that seems like, I'd be like, it doesn't really make a difference. He just needs to die for our sins. The torture part, like the cruelty part of it, isn't really the necessary part. It's just the dying, for the sins. You know what? Actually, Josh, I have a good question for you, and I should save it for a Christian, but I've been thinking about this, and I want to see if my rationale is on point here. Okay, who in the bloodline? Because the whole point is that like Jesus is of the bloodline of King David. Am I correct on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who is it? Mary is on the bloodline of King David, or was it Joseph?
Well, in theory, the two accounts are supposed to, depending, I suppose, on who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
One is supposed to come to Mary, and the other is supposed to come to Joseph. So, in a certain way, some of it has to do with some of the kings that are in the bloodline, and how the right to rule was sort of cut off because of something that God said in the Old Testament about some of the wicked kings, and so the other bloodline presented in, I think it's in Luke, allows it to bypass that problem with the king. But I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be this unbroken chain. The problem, of course, is that it's literary. I mean, very clearly literary. You have 14 generations before and 14 generations leading up to, and so.
What my question is, by the way, audience, if you're just tuning in, this is not Brother Jay. By the way, just to let you know,
I'm not that good.
This is Josh from Digital Hammurabi channel. Brother Jay was no show. We're trying to get Christians in here now. If not, we're gonna have some fun reading the Bible tonight. But we're just kind of shooting the shit right now, talking about the Bible. Josh is, you know what, Josh, shit. Why? I haven't even, just in case someone hasn't seen the show lately. Josh, tell us who you are, what your background is, and about your channel real quick while we're waiting here.
Sure. I was a pastor of a church, an evangelical church, for 7 years. I have a bachelor's degree from Liberty University. I got a master's in theology and Old Testament studies from Capital Bible Seminary. And then I went and got a PhD from Johns Hopkins University in Assyriology and minoring in Hebrew Bible. So I read a bunch of dead languages. So I have some expertise in the biblical texts. I have expertise in ancient Near Eastern texts, particularly Sumerian and Akkadian. And my wife and I started a channel to try to make all of that sort of heady, esoteric knowledge accessible to regular people. So we started Digital Hammurabi, and we just are about to hit 750 subscribers. I think we're at 745 right now, which is exciting. And we try to do stuff that would be considered perhaps out of people's reach normally. Like I just posted today our 4th Sumerian grammar video, and it's actually, I think, pretty user-friendly and understandable. And I think we've got 9 people now that are taking Sumerian with us. So, yeah, I mean, it's sort of what we like to do. So I like being on discussions like this because I feel like I can be of some use because I do have this background knowledge and I can read these languages. So. But,
which is pretty damn impressive, bro. You can read Hebrew, and what was the other language? Hebrew. You can do Greek a little bit, and what was the other? Was it Sumerian? What was that?
Yeah. So I wrote my dissertation on a subdialect of Sumerian, but I read Akkadian, Aramaic, Hebrew, Greek, a very small amount of Ugaritic. Although my Ugaritic professor would probably not be happy with me saying that. But
what? So you were a preacher at one point. You were a pastor. You said
7 years.
What kind of? Wow, 7 years. Damn. What kind of church was it you were in?
It was a dispensational church, so really close to Baptist. But for anybody that knows anything about dispensationalism, I was not an Acts 2 dispensationalist. I was a mid-Acts dispensationalist. So we were sort of on the fringe of that not denomination, but that belief structure. So yeah.
Interesting. And so were you like one of these fire and brimstone preachers? Would you get up there and be like, the fires of hell are upon you?
No, but I mean, I certainly
now the glory of God before it's too late.
No, there were no people like in Jonathan Edwards' church holding on to the pews so that they wouldn't fall into hell while I was preaching. No, but no, but I mean, I certainly didn't shy away from the gospel and from the coming judgment. And I was a preacher a preacher of rapture, so the rapture was the next thing on the prophetic calendar, and then the 7-year tribulation was going to come, followed by the millennial kingdom. So that's who I was. And actually, there's a video, if anybody's interested in hearing, I sort of droned on for an hour or so about this on a live hangout about a month ago. It's on the channel Digital Hammurabi. It's called From Evangelicalism to Agnosticism, an Academic's Journey. So,
I remember I was so excited to be a preacher at one point because I was gonna I used to practice getting into the sermons, and I still think to this day that I probably would have done a good job at it. I probably wouldn't have focused on all the negative stuff. I probably wouldn't have been the big anti-gay pastor. I probably just been you need to get in there and you need to love some Jesus. You need to understand what the Lord wants. You need to stop focusing on yourself. You need to start putting your faith up there. Get your eyes on the goal and start loving some Jesus.
Oh, I feel that in my spirit.
You got to have it, man. Because that Holy Ghost, it's coming down for you. You may not want it. You may be kicking and fighting and trying every other way to kind of deny that Jesus is your Lord. But let me tell you this right now, folks. Jesus is. I'm telling you, I would have done a great job. I would have been a great band.
No doubt.
I probably have done funny voices as I was doing it. I always go to this this Southern kind of hey, drawl when I try to do things. It's really funny to me. All right, guys. Like I said, if you're a Christian, you want to come in here, you're more than welcome to. I've sent the email out. I've messaged. I've done enough. I hope that we get somebody. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and continue with the show. And if you haven't got to catch one of these things, I got another question for you, Josh. Forget it. We're going to ask you another question real quick. Okay. It says, Iron Chariot again. Probably not Josh's field, but ask him if he knows what recorded Jesus' sayings in the Garden of I can never say these words. Gethsemane. Yeah. But ask him if he knows who recorded Jesus' sayings in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Who recorded them?
Yeah.
I mean,
is that a Christian? Is Iron Chariot a Christian? I don't know if that is a Christian or not. If he is, he should come in here.
I mean, if he's asking how is it that somebody could know if all the disciples were asleep, the people that were recorded?
That makes I see what he's saying. Yeah, it's
Mark made that shit up.
If he's praying, yeah, exactly. If he's praying by himself and everybody's did somebody quote the words of Jesus? Yeah, good point.
I mean, there are lots of questions like that, right? I mean, how Jesus knows things about what other people are thinking, but yet there's not enough time for Jesus to have relayed that information to the people that would have written it down. I mean, look, this is just a narrative. It's a narrative that somebody's writing. I mean, it's a story, and that doesn't mean that it's bad, and that doesn't mean that there's no value to it or something. But I think trying to ascribe it trying to ask things of the text that you can't ask of it by trying to paint this picture of an actual Jesus who actually did these things and what we would consider to be a reality, I think it's not what the text was meant to do. I don't think.
No. Well, I mean, and you got to think too, think about the times where Jesus prays to himself, which is kind of strange, right? Because he is God and he's literally praying to himself in some sense. I think honestly that when I look at scripture, I actually think there's a very good argument for Christians who believe that it isn't just one God, that it is actually two separate gods. There's God the Father and the Son, and they aren't the same, and the Holy Spirit is almost something separate from it. I think there's a good argument to be made for that, looking at scriptures. That was actually an interesting. I should try to get Christians in here to debate that one time, because I think there's merit to both sides of that argument, like the Trinity argument and the, what would you call that? Is that the, it's not polytheism. I mean, that's when you believe in multiple gods, but there's another term for it in theology. But yeah, I think there's a good argument for it when you see it. Let's see. The Georgian says the Trinity doesn't say they're the same. Well, listen, I get that they're not the same, but here's my thing. If you're going to say they have separate minds, I don't know why we wouldn't count them as separate beings, right? Like, so if Jesus has a mind, God the Father has a mind, and then the Holy Spirit has a mind, which I think the Holy Spirit, you might be able to argue your way out of that and say it doesn't have a mind. Maybe that's just the force of God working its action. But I don't know. I don't know if it has two different minds. I don't know why you wouldn't call it a separate being.
I mean, this is what the early church wrestled with, right? I mean, when you have three personae and one essence, and that's what they have to. That's what you have to argue. It's what I argued, that you have one essence but three persons. You can't reconcile those things logically. Not that I'm a logician or anything, but you can't draw it. You can't.
I think sometimes, well, that's the problem with a lot of religion like this.
Yeah,
is like you either overcomplicate it, or like you have to make these grandiose type of reasoning to why this makes sense, like cohesively, right? It's like the Calvinists with the different wills, how there's like a decretive will, and there's like there's this like moral will, and somehow like in his decretive will he can make people do awful things, and then because under his moral will it's against his morality, and then he can punish them rightfully because some other kind of will. It's very strange.
Well, it's starting with your conclusion and trying to make the evidence fit your conclusion, and so you have to come up with these special dances. I mean, that's really what it is. And I have far more respect, I think, for people that say, yeah, I mean, I don't understand how these things go together, but I believe that God wants me to be a good person and to love my neighbor as myself, and that's the God I serve. That I'm.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're just like, hey, like I don't mind the happy-go-lucky Christians. Like I have a lot of good what I call happy-go-lucky Christians in my life, right? Like we talk at work. They know what I do. Like they know that I do a YouTube channel that's against Christianity and religion. But like we just kind of laugh it off. We're like, whatever, like I'm like, maybe I'll show up at your church one day for fun. I got a question from the audience from Genius Tracks. This is Skylar. How does yourself and Josh rationalize death to kids that they're at the same age they're starting to ask? I have family bringing heaven up to them and shit. Okay, so basically, I guess you're kind of asking like how do you deal with death and religion with your children, other family members who may be religious Christian, and they're bringing it up to your kids. I guess I'll answer first, quick. Then Josh, your kids may be a little younger than mine, but I have a 7-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. So the 2-year-old, we don't really. That's out. It's not even concept yet at that age. With the 7-year-old, it's interesting because if you guys may have heard this before, I actually regretfully had him in a Christian pre-K because it was a nicer school in my area. And I honestly didn't think they would really focus too much on the Christianity. Boy, was I wrong on that. That was a big mistake on my part. But most of the time, what our answer is when we talk about death, what there is more than what we perceive in reality is I don't know. And that's what we tell our children. I mostly, me and my wife, when we have conversations, you got to remember, my wife was a Jehovah's Witness. I think she still probably believes in God, to be honest with you. But what I try to, when we don't have those conversations that often, but when we do have a deeper, for a 7 or 8-year-old, my son's going to be 8 here soon, we simply say it's okay to say I don't know, and we're trying to figure that out, and that nobody knows the answer to these deep questions. When my son was in school for a little bit, he would come home and he'd be like, "Can we pray before dinner?" And I'm not going to be a dick and be like, "No, that's your teachers are lying to you, and get the hell out of here. We're not doing this. This is an atheist household. God damn it." I'm gonna be like, "All right, that's fine. You say the prayer, like you go ahead and say it." And then of course it's gonna be like, "Oh God, thank you for food." All right, that's it. that's the extent of it, right? So that's how we deal with it. Bigger issues. I don't know if I want to go off on this tangent. I should let you answer, Josh, first. My family, I have a biracial family. All right. So my wife is black. I have, 2 children. My 7-year-old has darker skin. My daughter's blonde hair, blue eyed. Don't know how the hell that happened genetically, but it maybe looks like me. But it's been tougher trying to talk about racism and preparing the kid for the world. Like, I'm not, at 7, 8 years old, I'm not going to unleash all things that go on and let him know the complete history of what's happened in the past. But I find those conversations much more difficult because I don't want him to be blindsided by it, but I don't want him to necessarily have to deal with such complex issues at that age. But Josh, what say you, or maybe what you'll do in the future, your thoughts on that topic?
Yes, I mean, I have a 7-month-old now, a 5-year-old, and an 11-year-old, and the 11-year-old Paige, I've intentionally not sheltered her really from any of this stuff, and it's nice because my ex-wife and my wife Megan and I, we all get along very well. We all agree about this stuff, about how which makes things work really, really well. And we just decided that we were going to arm her with the question, how do you know that? Right. And it's become sort of the tagline for our channel. I end every video with that now,
Thought that was Psi 10 quote there for a minute.
Is it? No,
how do you know that?
Yeah, right.
Sorry, good.
I don't use it to be a dick, though. So I don't use it because I don't have an argument behind it. Sorry, that's not nice. Anyway, no, but I think that we have very religious family, extended family, and because I've come out of that, and it's still sort of shocking to a lot of them. Even very recently, I had an extended family member send a comment to me about this, but so they'll go visit people in their extended family and hear the gospel, or honestly, I'm okay with that because I feel like I have raised Paige in particular at this point to be able to ask the question, how does he know that? How does she know that? And she thinks things through. And I think children that are armed with critical thinking skills, you don't have to shelter them from it. And you're exactly right, Skylar. I mean, 7 years old is, you got to be selective, obviously, about what you let enter their world. But you can, I don't know, for me, I felt like I could sense when Paige was ready to engage with this stuff. And I don't know, I just think she's a very clever young lady. And
how old do you say she was?
She's 11.
Oh, yeah. So that's a good age. Right around 10, 11 is when they're really starting to kind of figure things out a little bit more in the world. That's when they ask you some really interesting questions by that age. And I think it's good too. It does. I think you're right, Josh. I think it prepares them. Like, the idea of questioning things is such a good concept, right? Especially today. Like, when you look at all the information that's out there and all the misleading information, you look at the internet. I mean, good Lord. I think that I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts out there, and he was doing an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was saying they were quoting some things that like 30% of millennials believe the Earth isn't a ball, like a globe. And like, you think about like some of the crazy stuff that people fall into traps of here on YouTube, because they listen to something that sounds occasional, sounds knowledgeable, can be put, especially with YouTube, through a lens of a very polished message, right? And ignorance is very easy to pass on and get caught up in that. So I think it's very, very important to question.
And I think one of the things, sorry, and then I'll stop.
Please, as much as you want. Don't you fucking apologize to me. You say what you got to say, Josh. Oh, damn it.
Roger that.
All right.
I think one of the things that's very telling, and I did one of my little musings on the move videos about this on the channel, but one of the things that's very telling is when the more that people are dogmatic, in my experience, the more that someone is dogmatic about something, particularly something that's debatable, very debatable, particularly something that's religious in nature, the more that they make definitive statements about it, we know that this is true. We can be certain of this. the less likely that they actually have an educational background that could substantiate such a claim.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've armed Paige with.
There's a quote. What's the quote? Like, there's something about like smart. Is it like smart people are too nervous to speak up, basically, because they're too worried that they're wrong. But dumb people are so stupid that they're so boastful about their. I can't. There's a really good quote about that. The idea of like smart people are always so cautious to say anything because they could be wrong. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the reasons that I Skylar, don't take that. I love being on here, but this can be nerve-wracking for me because even though I know Genesis pretty goddamn well, you know, not knowing what you're going to ask me about, and particularly like you know, if we get into the Nephilim today, Nephilim's it's a difficult topic, and of course people think that it's very settled. Oh, we know what the Nephilim are. No, we don't. And so it's, you know, you always think, am I going to say something live like this that's incorrect? It's one of the things that I struggle with is being nervous about saying something that's academically incorrect, and so I'll always hedge my bets. So that's
no, that's totally cool. Like I get it. Like I get in the same way sometimes. I can definitely being on YouTube like this in this environment can sadly make me a little bit more egotistical sometimes, like because you get that audience members behind you, like, yeah, get them, Skylar, go get, you know, kind of thing. But you know, in the real world, what I call outside of this YouTube, you know, it's important to have that humbleness and to recognize you can be wrong because, I mean, I don't get it these days. I don't know why people are so opposed to like. It's a good thing when you're wrong about something sometimes because you have the opportunity to learn and to grow and be a better person about it. And that's the thing I think people forget. I think we get we're so sucked into these days, this culture of, and I'm guilty of it too. I don't want to like I'm fucking up here on this mountain looking down at everybody here, but this whole culture of like outrage and like one up, like I gotcha, you know, like I gotcha culture. Like I'm gonna show how wrong you are, and I'm gonna make everyone point and laugh at you, right? Instead of like looking at the times that you fail, the times that you were wrong, as an opportunity to get better and to learn and to improve yourself and your skills. I can think of the amount of times in my life that I've fallen on my ass and I've made terrible, poor decisions. So, anyways. Let me look over here. Oh, I made another super chat, man. Who is this? Let me see. I did want to give a shout out, first of all, to Puffaluffagus 360. First of all, for an amazing name. All right, love it, Puffaluffagus. I wish I could rename my YouTube channel that. He says, but how do you know what truth is? He's making a joke about Psi 10, LOL. So thank you in a super chat. And then I just got a super chat from Shane. It says the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people are so full of doubts. That's the quote I was looking for. Bernard Russell. That's exactly it. Thank you so much for putting that quote up.
But Shane can't make that statement without assuming the Christian God. So
yes, I mean, he could be a brain in a vat for all we know right now. So he can't know anything. He's just, you know, who knows if that quote is real.
I'm sure Shane knows that I'm kidding.
Yes, of course. I think Shane was watching some of that quote, but that was the quote that I butchered trying to think of it, and that is exactly what I was looking for here. You know, this has been fun so far, man. I'm always like, I'm telling you, this is twice this guy's canceled on me, and this has turned into something better. I'm sorry, audience, that you don't get to see. You know, Josh and I are going to be arguing with each other about Christianity, but you know, who knows? We still have time for a guest show. Oh, what is this? Let's see here. Okay, yeah, no, that was an email. What's something else? Okay, let's see what else we got here. I think we don't have any more unless we have another question. I think we're going to jump into reading the Bible.
Are there really no Christians watching?
I know, it's a weird night tonight. Usually you have at least one or two trolls in there trying to like talk smack. Like last night, by the audience, by the way, before we move on here, I had a wonderful guest on last night. His name's Jimmy. He's from the Dinosaurs Will Always Be Awesome podcast. And we just talked about dinosaurs for like an hour and a half. He's a paleontologist. There's a lot of knowledge under his belt. And it was super fun. So if you like dinosaurs and you want to hear about that kind of stuff, science, things like that, watch the Hangout. It was super fun. I know it's a little different. You know, it's not me screaming and arguing about dead babies with a Christian. All right. But like, it was something interesting. It was something new. He's got a fantastic channel. I do have another question I got to ask you. Someone keeps asking the same question over. Sorry, Sabella. I'll get to your question in just a second. It's for you, Josh. I got a lot of questions. I should just call this a conversation with Josh from the Digital Hammurabi. I really should just do that at this point. This is actually, I didn't even think to do this.
My anxiety level just went up 15 points.
It's like now I got to ask you like hard cutting questions, put you on the edge of your seat. Anyways, it was a great show last night, and it's just watch it. All right, guys, just check it out. Like, it's something a little different, but like it's all about awesome dinosaurs and things like that. Anyways, let me ask you this question, and I'm afraid I may not be able to pronounce this word because we all know I'm barely literate. Let's be real here. Okay, this is from Sabella Shepherd. It says, ask him how much he studied Asherah. That's it. Please and thank you.
Oh, not as much as I would like.
Well, first, tell me what it is. Let me know what that is first. So, yeah.
So, you know, in ancient Israel, Israelite religion is not as simple as I think people would think. So if you read the Old Testament, you get this what could be considered a very clear view of Israelite religion, right? There's one God, it's Yahweh, and everybody worships him, and anything outside of that is bad. And so, you know, you have the kings worshiping Asherah or worshiping Baal, you know, these other deities. But the picture is that the Old Testament's trying to paint, which is a theological text, is that, you know, the Old Testament is this singular, that in general, everything is moving toward this single religion, and everything is, sorry, I bumped my microphone there. Everything is outside of this religion. In reality, Israelite religion is very complicated. For your listeners, Dr. Theodore Lewis at Johns Hopkins has written quite extensively on this. I don't think he's got a monumental work, his magnum opus, coming out. I don't think it's been published yet, but it's probably going to be over 1,000 pages just on Israelite religion. But it's a phenomenal work. Richard Hess wrote a book that's sort of a standard on Israelite religion, and they deal with these deities amongst other things. But, you know, we have actually a fair amount of archaeological evidence, not a ton, but a fair amount of archaeological evidence that supports the conclusions that scholars draw about Israelite religion. So it's certainly not my field, or that part is certainly not, but that's what I would say is that's who Asherah is. That's who Baal was. And it's something very important it's a good question. It's something very important to look into. All right.
Someone, actually, I would say someone, I'm just going to use the person's name. Christy Santiago says, I really enjoy when you have smart, skeptical people on. So I'm going to believe you're that smart, skeptical person, Josh. I'm sure is not me.
I appreciate that.
Awesome. All right. You know, we're going to get into this Bible thing because I think that will spark some conversation. If the audience has questions, I'm going to adjust the picture. I feel weird. Like if it's not like even, like I know it's like this is like the good hat. Like this is like the one that gives me good advice, like the angel on your shoulder. And then there's like me, the devil me, that has a bluebird on his shoulder. Actually, these are two of my good friends made these one year for my birthday. Because my birthday is coming up here. So it was a couple of years ago. They made, was it my birthday? It might have been Christmas, actually. Some holiday.
Could have been Festivus.
What's that? Could have been Kwanzaa. Maybe I celebrate Kwanzaa, you know? And that was my Kwanzaa gift this year. Yeah. So so that they're there, and I love these posts up here. It's better than, remember the giant red wall that I would have in my videos. That was my kitchen area, and it was just being me and this giant red wall and a little black and white city up here. Anyways, okay, we're getting to this. We're gonna do this thing. I don't see any more emails, so I think we're gonna do that now. All right, and we are at Genesis 3 or 4. Where are we at?
4. Mm-hmm.
Genesis 4. If you haven't seen the first segment of Skylar Fiction Reads the Bible, go check it out, because this beautiful man here is in it also, and I'm referring to Josh there. not the beautiful man you see here with the anyways, all right, let's get going with this. Let's read it. Verse 1, Cain and Abel. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. And she said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. All right, so we start the love making. We're here, things are getting a little sexy. And it's not the Garden of Eden anymore, because they've already been kicked out at this point. So, love makings begin. We have 2 sons, Cain and Abel. And it says, Abel kept the flocks and Cain worked the soil. And in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as a offering to the Lord. And Abel brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. So many questions, right? So first, I'm already wondering, like I don't know why one is better than the other. Like, is there like some kind of historical context to this? Why the plants on the ground offering was not as good as the fat portions of his flock? Yeah.
I mean, if again, you have to sort of step out of the, you have to step into a historical worldview, right? And this text, if it's being composed in the middle of the first millennium, you have a sacrificial system that Israel is following, right? The Israelites are following. And so blood sacrifices are the central part of their worship system. So what does God want? God wants blood sacrifices, right? He doesn't want agricultural sacrifices. So it's like Goofus and Gallant, if you remember that from highlights, Goofus would have brought plants, and Gallant would have brought stuff from the flock. So blood sacrifices. So, I mean, this is again just trying to show, in my opinion, this is trying to show the origin, just like everything else in this text, of where did blood sacrifices come from.
Well, what's interesting to me, right, is because, like, all right, so first of all, if we look at this from a literal perspective, which a lot of Christians do, which I don't know why, it's such a bad idea to do that, because you cause so many more problems for yourself. If you just take it like as more, what's the term we're looking for? Not metaphorical.
Mythologically.
Mythologically. But like, what I don't get, right, is like, I mean, the reason he brings him, like, Cain brought some fruits of the soil is because he works the soil, right? Like, and then the other guy, he's the one who's working the livestock. So, of course, he brings the fat from it. And it kind of makes God look like a little bit of a dick for, like, doing this. Like, hey, I'm showing favor for the, it's just like, this is just their jobs. This is what they decide to do. One's taking care of the flock, one's taking care of the soil. So it would make sense that they would bring their own gifts from what they're working. And God just takes favor and it's like, hey, I like the fat from the animals better. I mean, I get it. Like, listen, fat from like meat when you cook it is delicious. Like, it's terrible for you, right? But it is like when you eat a steak, you want that fat, right? Like if someone puts a big fat beefy steak in front of you, like mid-rare, right? Deliciously seasoned, right? That's going to be fantastic. And then if someone puts a bunch of fucking carrots on a plate in front of you, like, which one are you going to want? Like, yes, I'm going to show favor to the steak, right? But this is God. God doesn't have an appetite like me. He's not looking at that steak like, oh, that looks fucking delicious. I don't know. I find that funny already. I got an email here, I think. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, no, that's not an email. That's a Google Plus notification. I just want to make sure that this is somebody who wants to come in. They can. Nope, no, that's someone else who asked me something else. Okay, so
Damn.
I know I get my hopes up, Christians. You're getting my hopes up. I'm like I'm giving you no form. The amount of times people give me shit in the chat saying, "Oh, I'll come on debate you," but then they don't want to. Anyways, all right. So let's keep reading. Ooh, all right. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right and you're not, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at the door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Which is interesting, right? Because there's no context here to what sin is or anything at this point. Like, it's obviously referring. This, God, there's so much I just want to unload. I'm so sorry, guys. I got to unload so much on here, right? This should all tell you that this is not literally talking about 4 people existing on the planet, right? It's not talking as if Adam and Eve and then the 2 kids only existed. This is really showing you that this was a culture. This was the whole world that was happening here. And this was just probably one story within a large group of people. Because there's already rules and sin and desire, and what he's referring to here. I mean, he's obviously referring to there's some kind of moral system already in place here. And that whatever, like by offering fruits instead of the fat of animals, he was already disobeying God to some degree. Hold on. It's another day. Another person set up for another day, but that's good. So strange. Like it's already this. It only points further to this was not 4 people. This is not literal. This is talking. There was a whole culture at this point, and we're just trying to tell some kind of message. All right. So let's continue this. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Ooh, drama. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where's your brother Abel?" I don't know if this is rhetorical and he actually knew where Abel was. I'm only going to imagine at this point because that soul went somewhere, right? Like, is that the first person? I'm going to imagine that soul went to heaven. That would be the first soul in heaven, wouldn't it? Like, if you think about it, like if that's like, that would be the first human death according to scripture. Because now, Adam and Eve haven't died yet. It's the 2 sons. If you're, like I said, if we're taking a literalist position on this, which most Christians do, that's the first human death. And now I guess that soul's in heaven. I don't know why God's asking where he is. I'm going to guess he's just kind of messing with him to be like, hey, I know what's going down. So it says, the Lord said to Cain, "Where's your brother Abel?" And then he's like, I don't know. I don't know where he is. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out from me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be restless wanderer of the earth. Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me out of my land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be restless wanderer of the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But there's no other people. I don't know how you could rationally, as a Christian, now argue that this is literal, because it's obviously referring to other people existing. Now, I've actually heard arguments, and this is pretty funny, that by this point the earth was being populated. Like they had enough babies and children that there are many people and villages out there, but it just seems very irrational.
Well, I mean, I've debated people in the past couple of months, actually, intelligent people on YouTube that take a concordist view of scripture, and they say that in Genesis 1, there are millions and millions of years of evolutionary history, and early humans developed and then came up out of Africa, and then Genesis 2 is the second creation of Adam, and so that the whole earth was already populated, and then he created Adam. I don't think that's what the text is doing, but there are intelligent people that make that argument. I don't think it's tenable, but it's an argument.
It's an argument. I can say that for at least here. Let's see here. And I'm trying to get this might work out. We'll see. All right. Someone was trying to do another day, but I was like, hey, we're on now if you want to come on. All right. So let's keep going. I like it. Let's see here. I did want to, I'll have to find his name. I'm going to make another moderator. Shane, I'm going to make you a moderator. Send me an email. You're down. You're going to be a mod. I'm going to do that in a little bit, though. All right. So let's go back. Where are we at? All right. So, what's his name's dead. He's got to go out. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more. Okay. So, Abel's dead. Anybody will kill me. We're on 15. But the Lord said to him, no, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer a vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. But I thought aren't they out of Eden by this point? Like, what's going on here? Are they like on the outskirts of Eden? Like they're like, hey, we can't go in that nice little paradise over there, but we're going to just live right outside of it.
I mean, I think the argument would be that Eden was the region, and then there was a garden that was in Eden. But I mean, again, I think we're trying to narrow down where Tiamat's eye sockets were, as the headwaters for the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. I don't.
It is interesting. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I like how God too is like, he's like, I care enough not to let anybody kill you, so I'll mark you somehow. And I wonder what the mark would be. I don't think it's really described here. But he's like, I care enough not to kill you, but I'm gonna make you work harder on the ground. You're not gonna be able to do your job. So good luck trying to eat, as far as that goes. All right. So what happens here? So Cain went out of the presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden, which is interesting because he's saying he went out of the presence of God. So I guess God is still kind of in the presence of Adam and Eve. They're not in the Garden of Eden, but he's still kind of living with them in that situation. And he goes to the land of Nod. Now, where's the land of Nod, Josh? What is that referring to? I'm not familiar with that. What is the land of Nod?
Oh, it's to the east of Eden.
Ah, okay. It reminds me of something. Is it like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? I don't know. Like we're going to the land of Nod. I want to live in a place called Nod. Like, hey, we're just here in Nod doing our thing. It's a great name. All right. I don't know what to do with that. All right. Okay. So, look, Cain made love to his wife in the next verse. So, verse 17. Cain made love to his wife, which is who? Is this his sister? I don't know where this wife came from, but there's only 2 people on the planet, so that's producing children. So I guess it could just say Cain had sex with his, or is it Cain? Yeah, Cain had sex with his sister, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, which is pretty impressive for a single individual. I'm going to give him credit if he's building a city. Don't know who's going to live in that city since there's only Cain, Enoch, and Adam and Eve, and the other dude's dead at this point. So he's building a city. Cain then was building a city and then named it after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of, if I can pronounce this, Majal, and Majal was the father of Methuselah, and Methuselah was the father of Lamech. Okay, sounds good. Lamech married 2 women. Ooh, Lamech got 2. I see. By this point, they're figuring things out, man. They're like, hey, we got to repopulate quicker. I married 2 women. I get, double the pleasure, double the fun here.
It's the first Mormon.
This is probably where they get their multiple wives, isn't it? In the Mormon religion. Man, why did we give this up, religion?
Yeah. Come on, Christianity.
Go on, Christianity. Like, where's my 2 wives at? Like, why couldn't this have been the thing? Why did we have to stick with stoning the gays and killing the gays? Like, why couldn't we have kept the practice of like marrying multiple women? I know it sounds terrible, folks. I don't really mean that. I love my wife. I don't know. I wouldn't marry another woman. Honey, if you're watching this, it would not happen. Like, unless I could just make 2 of you. Like, maybe like if there were 2 of the exact person, I could have you twice, I wouldn't want it any other way, honey. All right. All right. So, all right, man, this is too good. This is where we get the fun stuff. This is really good scripture here. So Lamech married 2 women, one named Adah and the other named Zillah. Adah gave birth to Jabal, and he was the father of those who live in tents and raised livestock. Okay, pretty cool. His brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of those who played stringed instruments and pipes. Oh, so they've invented music now. So now they figured out how to make instruments, play music. They're building cities by this point. That's really cool. Zillah also has a son, Tubal Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Wow, man, we've really progressed very quickly within a generation or 2. Now we've got bronze and iron right out of the Garden of Eden. What were we, like two generations later, 3 generations later? Technology's moving quick, folks. They got this stuff down. And Tubal, Cain's sister, was Nahama. I bet this is terrible. Lamech says to his wives, Adal and Celia, "Listen to me, wives of Lamech. Hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, the Lamech 7 times. Adam made love to his wife again." Wow, man. Is this only twice? 3 times? Yeah. I love how they're keeping records of how many times they made love to each other here. Okay. Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son named him Seth. It's a very interesting English name there. Saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel. Since Cain killed him, Seth also had a son and named him Enosh. At the time, people began to call on the name of the Lord." Interesting. Now, what do you think that's a reference to? So, like, weren't they already calling on the name of the Lord? Like, wasn't God with them at this point? I honestly, reading this now, Josh, it's been a while since I've read this part. It really blows my mind that people can honestly argue with a straight face that this was a literal couple of people story.
Yeah.
Like, this is so obviously, there was already cities and cultures and everything. And the story is referring to a particular family.
And I think the thing that makes it even more frustrating in that light is that this isn't the only ancient Near Eastern text that does this, right? Yeah. And we have much older ancient Near Eastern texts that do this very same thing. For example, chapter 5, you're getting ready to go into, where it talks about these people with very long lives, and they live and they die. And, we have the Sumerian king list, and the Sumerian king list does almost exactly the same thing. It does it with a different. It's doing something different in the sense of what it's trying to accomplish. But nonetheless, this is what people did, right? Having a lineage, having longevity in an area, having ancestry in an area, being able to say we've been in this place for however many thousands of years is extraordinarily important in the ancient Near East. And so creating this history like this of your people is exactly what you would expect them to do.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? It's so, all you need to know is you need to know a little history, understand a little bit of the culture back then, and then things start to kind of come together more cohesively. It's really only when ignorant Christians want to take some kind of literalist view where they've just basically been taught this. They've just been taught that this is how you have to understand the Bible. You just have to understand it as like, this way is the way we translate it. This is the way we look at it. just critical thinking skills out there, Christians. That's all I'm asking. Critical thinking skills. Take the time. Take the time to understand it a little bit. We're not even like, atheists aren't out to get you. Like, we're not out there to try to like mislead you and, lead you in the wrong direction. Recently, before we get to the next chapter, I've gotten emails from people struggling with faith that are still Christians and asking me advice about like what they should do. I'm never going to be a monster and tell you, oh, you're stupid. Give up your beliefs. You shouldn't be thinking like this. Like, that's not the right thing to do, right? And fellow atheists out there, you shouldn't do that either, right? You should, let people take the time and just question their beliefs, right? Tell people that it's okay just to say, I don't know. And let it go from there. Let them do their own research. If you want to give them resources, give them good resources. Don't just give them some kind of video that's going to knock them and be mean to them. It's not effective, and it doesn't help the struggle they're going through. They will be much more appreciative if you just give honest and genuine answers to them, and give them resources that they can study and they can come to their own conclusions. Nobody ever changes their mind because they've got usually in a debate with somebody and they lost, right? They're going to come to their own conclusions based on, their own perception of things. All right.
I think maybe somebody Saka Christ.
That's probably sock account. Is it sock account? Where is
it? He's saying invite me. I don't know if this is just.
No, it may be my friend sock account. He's just,
okay.
Yeah, that's Soccer Christ. No, that's sock account. He's a sock account's amazing. He comes. So sock account things. If you don't know much about him, he has a channel, and he'll do like late night discussions and things like that, kind of open chats. But he used to, he was a big pivotal part of like the original Great Debate community. And what he'd do is he would make, sock puppet pictures, but based on different, people in the community. So there's like a sock puppet character with a hat that looks like me. So Soccer Christ is in the chat, and he's phenomenal, man. He's a good friend of mine on here. Anyways, where were we at? And then this guy, he's Standing for Truth, who's in the chat. He's going to be on here tomorrow night. So I'm not going to have him on tonight. He said he doesn't want to ruin the conversation anyways. But tomorrow night he will be on my channel at, I think we're doing it at 10 o'clock. I think maybe a little earlier. So anyways, let's get to the next chapter. I think we usually get about 3 of these done. Mm-hmm. So we may get 2 more done tonight. We'll see what happens. All right. Genesis 5. From Adam to Noah. Ooh, am I gonna have to go through? I'm not gonna read all this. We're gonna have to skip some of this because this is just doing all the generations. Maybe I will. All right, so from Adam to Noah, the written account of Adam's family line. Oh my goodness.
If you want, I'll point out just something real quick. So as you read through it, you can look for certain things. The way that these lineages are structured is that you have these set phrases, the set pattern that you'll see repeated over and over again. And as you read it, you'll see it. But then there are notes that are kind of thrown in there. And so the notes, the things that vary from the general pattern, those are the things that I think you can probably highlight. The same thing happens in the Sumerian king list. You have this very stock pattern, this set pattern, but then these notes are thrown in that vary, and you'll see it as you read through it.
No, yeah, and we'll read a little bit here. So this is a written account of Adam's family line. When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them, and he named them mankind when they were created. Interesting. So he's actually kind of referring here that it was mankind, like a whole group of people. When Adam lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and his name is Seth. Well, why doesn't it mention Cain and Abel here? That's really interesting.
Go figure.
Yeah, it's as if Cain and Abel really weren't the sons of Adam and Eve.
It's almost like it was a story that was added later.
Yes. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. but not listing Cain and Abel. Very interesting. Altogether, Adam lived a total of 930 years, and then he died. That's a long time to live, man. Ooh, I don't know if I'd want to live that long, especially back then. Like, that's hard life. That's not like living in here playing on the internet for 930 years. Like, that's, work in the fields, trying to survive. Like, and then, back then, too, young Earth creationists believe they were living with dinosaurs, man. So, like, you might have to dodge a T-Rex or a Velociraptor every once in a while. Giant snakes, anacondas, like, who knows, man. Very, very interesting. When Seth, altogether, Adam lived 930 years and then he died. When Seth had lived 105, he became the father of Enosh. After he became the father of Enosh, Seth lived 807 years and had other sons and daughters. Although Seth lived a total of 912 years and then he died. Wow. When Enosh had lived 90 years, he became the father of Cain. It's very interesting. Why do they wait till they're like 90, 100 years old to have children? Very strange. Here, God. These are good. I really wish we had a Christian in here right now. This would be really good. I'm trying to understand why they wait till 100 years to have children. But anyways, after he became the father of Kenya, Enosh lived another 815 years and had other sons and daughters. Although altogether, Enosh lived a total of 905 years. So they're living about 905, 912 years, 930 years with Adam. Okay. And then when Mahala had lived 65 years, he became a father. Oh, this one had a little young. He was like, rocking the boat, 65 years. And after he became the father, Jared and Mahala, he lived 830 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Mahala lived a total of 195 years, and then he died. When Jared had lived 162 years, he became the father of Enoch. Didn't they just say somebody else was the father of Enoch in the chapter before? I don't remember. I almost want to go back, but I'm not going. I'm not going to waste my time with that. How many years Enoch lived? About 800 more. So we have more of. I'm going to skip through this. I can't do all this. It's just too much. All right, we'll go to the last quote where it says, when Lamech had 110 years, he had a son. He named his son Noah. He said, he will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands caused by the ground that the Lord has cursed. After Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Although altogether Lamech lived 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. I can't pronounce his name. Japheth. All right, there we go. We need another beer here soon. All right. That's Genesis 5, folks. Let's see if we got any comments here. What do we got going? Anybody else have a question? Let's see here. Nope. Oh, do we have any? Nope. All right. Let's check the email one more time. Nope. Son of a bitch still hasn't emailed me and said he wasn't going to make it tonight. I guess that ain't happening. All right. So we'll go to Genesis 6. Well, this is where the wickedness of the world. Ooh. Now things are getting a little salty. So when human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them. Oh, is there no men? What's going on? Why would you mention that? That's another weird thing. Like when human beings began to increase in the number of the earth, you know what? It doesn't mention any women in here when they're talking about all the sons, does it? No, it says sons and daughters. Yeah. But it only bothers to name the males, which is hilarious. I gotta say, once again, God and his sexism. Like these guys, women aren't worth mentioning. We can name all the sons, but the women, nope. Hey, you're just things for the men to have sex with, basically, and produce children. All right, where humans beings began to increase the number of the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful. And they married any of them they chose. Okay. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. Okay. I don't know what's up with that. Like, why does God all of a sudden figure out that maybe we shouldn't have people living to be 900 years old? I wonder what that relevance was back in those times. Do you think this is just once again trying to explain to people why people die a certain young age or something?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that even after the flood, those years don't necessarily go down. I mean, they certainly go down a great deal eventually, but they still stay kind of high a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think this is absolutely the case. Again, this story that we're getting ready to get into, the flood story, is the one that shows the most parallelism with Mesopotamian literary text. So the intertextuality here is pretty substantial. So, you know, the idea of this being a counter story, a polemic of some sort, is I think that's viable. But certainly, the argument here, I think, in all of Genesis is that our story is the right one, and yours isn't, right? So, and having a story about it is that's what matters, is having that story in written form.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you got to be right on that one. All right. So it says, okay, where are we at? God, the Nephilim. Okay. Oh no, we're about to get into the Nephilim here. All right. Here's the good stuff here. All right. So their days will be 120 years. Verse 4, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were heroes of old, men of renown. Okay, so this is where I might ask you some Hebrew stuff, Josh. Sure. What this phrase, the sons of God, what is that? What is that talking about in Hebrew here?
Oh, good. You asked me an easy one.
Yeah, sorry. Keep you on your feet, Josh.
Well, it's B'nai Elohim, so it's the sons of God. There you go. That's what it means.
Basically, just translates.
Yeah, I mean, this passage is probably one of the most oft debated, and I wouldn't say that I have a good, solid answer for you.
Poor guy. That's all right. It's all right. The Christian in the audience, standing for truth, says the sons of God are the saved believers.
Yeah. See, you hear that? Sorry I don't mean this in a bad way, standing for truth, but that's the definitive statement that I was referring to earlier. This is X, right? On something that I just said is very hotly contested. There's no, well, here's a possibility, or, I think there's good evidence for this. No, that's what these are. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, everybody, when you become very skeptical.
All right. So now we have the Nephilim on the earth for those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of the humans. Well, and then too, the daughters of humans. So obviously, this is not just talking about like human beings here. This aren't just talking about, as Standing for Truth just said. What was the quote that he said? I can't find it now. Doesn't matter. Obviously, it's saying that, like, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans, like, that'd be a weird phrasing to say that these are just humans going to the sons of humans, right? So obviously, it seems like it's referring to something supernatural.
Yeah, I mean, so like there are lots of different interpretations, right? The one that you're referring to is that these are angelic beings of some sort. People have argued that these are fallen angels that have come down and that have polluted, the bloodline. People will argue that these are aliens that have come down and that are polluting the bloodline, right? And so not that I think that anyway, but the point is that it's because it's not straightforward, because it is unclear. It's very difficult, I think, to make these definitive statements, and I think it tells me that maybe that definitive statement hasn't been quite thought through.
Yeah, he's basically trying to argue it's believers having sex with unbelievers, but like I said, that's not what the scripture says here.
No, that's definitely you have to definitely read into the text.
Yeah. Okay. So the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become. Interesting, human race, and become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of human heart was only evil all the time. That's some pretty crappy people, man. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race. I have created with, I have created, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground. For I regret that I made them.
So if I could for just a second to sort of put this into some context here, if you read, for example, the Atrahasis story, the Mesopotamian flood story, the reason that the flood is brought about by Enlil and the divine council is that the people are being too loud, right? And there's some debate about the Akkadian word there. What does rigmu mean? Does noise mean like sin? Whatever. The point is that this is a capricious decision that the divine council has made. I mean, Enlil, the god that brings the flood, that's ultimately responsible for it, is said to have done something evil by bringing it. So this counter story, where there's clear intertextuality between these two texts. In this story, God is perfectly just, right? He's the good guy in the story. Enlil in the other story is the bad guy, right? And Enki has to come, Ea has to come and deliver humanity, save humanity through some trickery. Here, God is perfectly justified and humanity is actually at fault. They're the ones that have brought about the flood. And so that's the reason I think there's the lengths that the writer is going to show humanity bad, God good.
I need another beer. So I need to throw you a question, Josh, to answer the question. Does anybody have a question for Josh real quick before I just pull one out of my ass and throw it out? Let me see here. You know what, Josh? Just tell the audience something. Talk about the script real quick. I'll be right back. Maybe give some more insight. Maybe you know what? Answer this question for the audience. Who who do they believe wrote these scripts? Not in the sense of like who wrote it, like who literally wrote this scripture, but who do the Hebrews and Christians believe is the author of this chapter in the Bible of Genesis? I'll be right back.
Yeah. Another nice, easy question. I mean, of course, this is another thing that's very hotly debated and has been for, well, quite some time. There are several schools of thought. I think where I would probably come down here is that, these early chapters in particular are written probably during the Babylonian captivity. The high degree of intertextuality between this and the Mesopotamian stories, I think, indicates as it's is the context for their writing, and the situation that they were written in is probably, we'll find out at some point more definitively that the middle of the first millennium is probably a good time to identify them as having been put together, at least in partially redacted form. So, I think you can make a different argument, for example, with Leviticus. Maybe the early portion of Leviticus was composed at this time, and a later redactor during the Persian period comes back and develops the text more. I do want to say at the outset that the makeup of the Torah, the makeup of the Pentateuch and its redaction, JDP, and all these other theories. This isn't what I do. I feel like I know it relatively well given the amount of study that I've done in it, but I certainly didn't do my dissertation on this. If you're interested, if the audience is interested, Dr. Reed, I think he's very close to being Dr. Reed, if he's not there yet, is a friend of mine up in Hopkins who has some specialization in this. He's got a PhD in Hebrew, in the Hebrew Bible, and we're planning on having him come on to talk about just this topic, JDP, and the European scholarship, more modern European scholarship on that, and the debate between them. So I'll provide more more information on that when it comes up. Sorry, go ahead, Skylar.
All right. I hope that question was answered thoroughly. I would imagine.
I stood here the whole time and went. And stuff.
I think that would have been awesome if you had done that. I would have given you credit where credit's due. It shows balls. Anyways, all right. Where are we at here? We're about to kill all of mankind. So let's see here. So he regrets making human beings at this point, even though he knew what they were going to do, which is kind of funny. I don't know why you would have regret about something that you know is going to happen. It would be like me. God, you could give any example here. Knowing that I'm going to hate my job, but I took a job for somebody. I don't know. There's just so much wrong with it. Like, why do you regret doing something that you knew was going to happen? Or even better with Calvinists, where you think that he planned it out, right? So, like, God regretted doing something that he planned out from the beginning. Very strange, guys. Very strange. But, you know, God is a mysterious being. All right. So, Noah and the flood. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, a blameless man among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways.
When you hear it, it's like everybody's bad. It's their fault that the flood came.
Yep.
Not the capriciousness of the deity.
No. Yeah, I mean, and then like I said, as a Calvinist, you would say that you planned all this out. So like he's blaming people for the way he planned things, which is always hysterical. But I guess they're going against his moral will, not his decretive will there. Okay. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put in, so God, he warns Noah. He says, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof and opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring flood waters onto the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has breathed breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring the ark to all. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along. Excuse me. Burping a lot of beer. Moves along the ground and will come to you, and that will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded. So many problems here. First of all, how are you going to get a damn T-Rex onto a Noah's Ark? I just want to know. I want to know, young Earth creationists, what are you going to do? I guess you're going to say T-Rex babies, right? I guess you could take some baby T-Rexes on there. Second, like, you think about all the different animals. Like, they're not going to fit, right? They're not going to stop eating each other. They're going to, like, how are you going to feed all this stuff for this many days? What about all the bacteria and shit, right? Like, let's just think about all the waste that would be on this ship. It's absolutely incredible. Just give up the ghosts, guys. Like, I don't understand it. Like, you make your God look like a moron when you take this type of literal interpretation of this story. Like, then you take all the fresh and saltwater fish. You can't mix the fresh water. Those freshwater fish will die with the salt water. So much insects, all the bugs. Like, what are you gonna do with the bugs? I'm pretty sure that's gonna kill all the bugs. I don't even know how you would. And I think you could actually measure. The ship's not even that big, right? Like, I think they did the measurements before. What that is, cubits. And it seems kind of ridiculous, like the size here. I don't know.
I mean, and I think the other thing to point out here is the language is very clear that this is not a localized flood. And this is one of the ways that I think, people have tried to, who want to see this as a literal account, have tried to get out of, there being no evidence for a worldwide flood, by saying, well, it was just localized to the ancient Near East, to the Mesopotamian region, or to the problem is that the text is extraordinarily clear that every living thing on the earth is to die. That's the whole point, and that's what parallels. I mean, it clearly parallels the story from Mesopotamian literature, which is what it's having intertextuality with. It's meant to destroy everything and everyone. In the Mesopotamian story, Natrakasis, Enlil gets pissed because Enki manages to save a couple of people, and he's like, "What the hell? Everybody was supposed to die." So, this idea of it being a localized flood, it's just not tenable.
It's just ridiculous. And you think about too, like the height of the ship. I mean, there's dinosaurs taller than the fucking ship at that point. Right? You're going to say that, and then all of a sudden somewhere the dinosaurs died out afterwards somehow. Like all of a sudden all these dinosaurs and giant creatures died out because they only look at the Earth as being, especially a young Earth creationist, like 6,000 years old. Aren't the pyramids older than what they think the Earth is? Like, absolutely incredible. What's his name? I don't want to pick on him too much because he's going to be on my show tomorrow night, so I'm not even going to address him right now because he's talking about freshwater. There are fresh and saltwater fish, but Standing for Truth will be on here tomorrow night. So I'm not going to go too far into this with him.
Oh, look,
I think we'll save it for tomorrow. Yeah.
Standing for Truth says he agrees with me on that, but I'm just not going to read the on that part. I'm just going to say that he agrees with me. Thanks, Standing for Truth.
All right. So where are we at? Should we do one more chapter? Do we have time?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do one more chapter. We'll do one more. What time is it? Yeah. It's not 12 yet. We're okay. I can still get to bed. And my kids don't have to be up at butt-ass fucking crack early in the morning. The struggle's real, folks. Condoms. If you don't want to get up at 5:30, 6 a.m. in the morning, either wear a condom or pull out, as I refer to it as nature's condom. So to do that, so you shouldn't take advice from me. Let me tell you this. It's not...
I think we give great advice in these shows. We talked about... oral sex the last time, and
we did. You gotta pleasure your woman. Don't be selfish, man. Give it to your wife. So funny enough, I had this great idea for a shirt that I wanted. That it was going to be like a giant tree, like on a shirt, and it was going to say like pulling out, and then below it was going to say nature's condom. And it's not foolproof, but it works well enough, guys. It works well enough. Like when you really you're like, I don't want to get pregnant, but I'm not going to go with 100%. So I'm not going to get pregnant. So anyways, that was, now I've had a couple of beers in me. It sucks. I need better beer. I was going to pick it up, but I was hoping my dude was going to be on time tonight and show up. So I didn't stop and I'm stuck drinking these Oktoberfest, which is okay, but not my favorite by any means. All right, where are we at here? All right, so we just read chapter 6. All right, so now we're on chapter 7, or verse 7. Yeah, chapter 7, Genesis. All right, and the Lord said, Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every. See, now it's changing here, because now it just said in a couple verses before 2 of every kind of animal. And every kind of, I think it didn't even use it. It used another word too besides kind of animal. Take every kind of that will come on the boat. And now it's saying, take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate. They won't even refer to it as a female. They have to refer to it as mate here, which cracks me up once again. This culture just hates women, man. They're just like, they don't know why. Why do they hate women so much? Don't understand it. Like, God, they're so beautiful. Like, I almost feel sorry for gay dudes. Like when guys are born gay, because you don't get to appreciate like how beautiful women are, and and how awesome it is to I mean, don't get me wrong, there are other advantages to being gay, like, right? God, this is gonna get way off topic by going to this. But I will say that, like, I make jokes to my gay friends at work all the time, and I'm like, man, I was like, oh, like, I'll look at a beautiful woman, I'll be like, nothing? I'm doing nothing for you? Like, that's amazing. Like, look at that. Like, that's like sorry. All right, let me go on here. All right. Let's see here. Okay, a male and its mate, and one pair of every kind of unclean animal. A male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep the various kinds alive through the earth. 7 days from now, I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. Which is also interesting, right? So really, what does God really need to do to wipe everything out? Why doesn't he just do everybody's dead? Like, just drop dead? Like, just, hey, I don't need you existing and living, so let me just make your heart stop. Seems much more reasonable than making it rain and flood everywhere. But, you know, like I said, Christians don't want to look at it like it's mythology or some kind of story. I mean, it's just like the Garden of Eden story. This is so riddled with, like, terminology and storytelling. I don't know, any average person, I don't see, like, it just makes sense that this is just a very interesting story to tell people, to teach a moral lesson, right? I don't know. What else we got here? Where are we at? 49. Okay. And Noah did as the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth. Let me ask, you know, Josh, sorry, stop again. I got to ask this. When these people are like 500-600 years old, like, what do you think they look like? Right? Like, are they like, do they age like because they're living so long? Or do you think they're like younger? Like, is like 600 years old like my age looking right now? And like, you know, 800, 900 is where you start to look really old type kind of thing. Like, are you still like, does baby life last longer? So like, are you a baby or a child for like 200 years when you're there? Or like, is most of that like 900 years you're a full adult kind of thing looking around? Questions I really want answers to that I know you're not going to be able to answer for me, Josh. But
what is it that George Clooney said in "O Brother, Where Art Thou"? It's a fool who looks for logic in the chambers of the human heart. That's what I think when you say that. Like,
I love it. I love it. That's exactly right.
Like, what was the scribe thinking? You know, what was the idea? But it's like, you know what it's like when you think about the parables in the New Testament, and you know, the bird lands in the tree and nests there, and you ask the question, I wonder, you know, which branch it landed on, and how many leaves were on that branch. You know, it's like, what? I mean, that's not the point of the parable. You're thinking way too specific about it. And I think people that, you know, like you're talking about, young earth creationists that would have to wrestle with that, because they'd have to ask those questions, because that's what they're trying to get from the story. That's the problem that they run into. You're identifying all the problems that they'd run into.
Yeah, it's so much. I just have so many unanswered questions that I want answers to. If I can only build a time machine, then I'd get to see.
Then you get to see.
Disappointed. I would be highly disappointed.
You would be very disappointed, yes.
Yeah, I'd probably be like, oh, these are a bunch of people just killing gay people by stoning them and believing crazy old beliefs. All right. So Noah did what the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on earth, and Noah and his sons and his wives and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals of the birds and all the creatures that moved along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah, and after the 7 days the floodwaters came to earth. That's going to be some scary shit too, right? Like, you're like you know, Noah's a little nervous, like, all right, God, I trust you. These creatures are going to come to my boat. You know, when you first see that giant dinosaur coming towards your boat, like that, like carnivorous, crazy creature, and it's like, all right, don't eat me. Just get on the boat. I just need you to go over into this little pin and try not to eat the other animals, because if you eat them, we won't have them for later to reproduce.
No, they've been hanging out with them all this time. It's cool, you know.
Oh, that's right. It's more like the Flintstones, isn't it? Like they're riding them around like the Ken Ham Museum. Like we're just living side by side, me and my
having their brontosaurus burger.
Yeah, or like I always think about, like, remember the Flintstones cartoon where like Fred Flintstone's in the drive-in theater and like they bring him that big giant rack of rib or something and it knocks his car over, the stone car with the wheels. Like it's like I always think, well, think about how fucked up that is, right? You think about how, like, you think about the scenario, right? Because all those dinosaurs are around him, right? And then like the dinosaurs are serving up their dinosaur friends to him to eat. So like here's the rib of some dinosaur that's probably serving you the food. It's so demented.
It's
so
like the box of Raisinets that's eating a box of Raisinets.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Terrible. Poor dinosaurs, man. These poor things have to like deal with like Fred Flintstone eating them. Like, hey, like, and remember all the mundane jobs they do in that show too? They're like, there's like dinosaurs that just shoot water for them to take showers in. Like, you fucking eat me and then you make me blow water on you guys so that you could take showers. Like, what a dick move by Fred Flintstone there. Okay. This is what you get, folks. When you come on to Skylar Fiction's channel and we do Bible studies, this is the kind of Bible studies we get. I'm going to get you fuckers into this, all right? I know this is a rough concept. I know this isn't me debating Christians, but this shit is entertaining.
And it's very scholarly. That's the one thing that you can say.
This is why I bring Josh on here, because if it was just me talking shit, people wouldn't take this seriously. Josh is like the meat. Like I don't even think I should do an episode with this without you. I need to permanently have you on the show to make sure we get the educational piece of this.
Oh, you're very kind.
I appreciate it. All right. All right. So we were to the birds. God, I've lost my place now. Okay. So all the animals, they came to him. They got on the boat. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on the day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of heavens were open, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that very day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wives and wives of the three sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that haveth the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah, and then the Lord shut him in.
If I could note a couple of things,
yeah,
you know, from a literary standpoint, I know I said this before, but the fact that the water from the great deep is coming up and the rain is coming back down. This is again a return back to that primordial pre-creation state. That's exactly what this is doing, is going back. God's doing a do-over, essentially, from a creation standpoint. The other thing is, you know, when you read,
my bad, folks. Sorry, I kind of fucked up a little bit, so we're just going to drown everybody. And we're going to get things going fresh. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
No, it's good. The other thing is somewhat comical when I read this. That says the Lord closed, you know, the door behind them. In the Mesopotamian story, 🀭Sudra has this guy from the city seal him up inside of the ark before the storm comes, and he says, "Hey, I'll get if you seal me in here, you can have my palace and everything. You know, you can have all my stuff." And he's like, "Oh, this is great." And, you know, it's like, yeah, there's a flood coming. Hey, man, you can have all my stuff. It's out there. Oh, that's awesome. You know, it's like, what a dick.
like, did he? Oh my god! Like, did he think it wasn't going to happen? Like, was
but that's again one of the fundamental differences between the stories. You know, I mean, we get this from the New Testament, but you know, Noah is supposed to have gone around and preached, you know, to the people, you know, hey, everything is coming. You know, 🀭Sudra, Utnapishtim, you know, the Mesopotamian Noah character says, "Oh, Enki and Enlil say that I have to go live in the underwater or in the underground water with Enki. So that's why I'm building this boat. Yeah, they don't tell him because humanity's not supposed to know about it, and so yeah, it's a real dick move.
Real dick move, man. Quite a bit here. All right. All right, so everybody's there at the boat. I was thinking too, I know this is kind of a strange thought I went to, but I was thinking about spiders for a moment. Like, I'm a little terrified by spiders. And, like, I was thinking about, like, 2 of every kind of spider jumping on that boat, like, and, like, getting, like, bitten by one, like, how awful that would be. And pretty terrified. Like, 2 of every kind of snake. Like, everything just hanging out, scorpions, just chilling. Like, all just there. Like, where... Like, I couldn't sleep. Like, if I was on that in that ark, I'd be like, oh my God, is like one of these creatures going to eat me? Like, am I going to get bit? Like, there's a lot of snakes on here, a lot of creepy crawly things that are on the ground that are now like just chilling in this place. And like, how do you even go about feeding them? Right? Like, you got to go feed the snakes. Like, you can't feed them the other creatures because then you'll run out of food. You'll run out of those animals to reproduce. So, like, what are you feeding the snakes that are on there? Like, what are you feeding this? Well, the spiders could probably. Well, no, because all the insects are going to be dead. Like, you can't bring the insects on.
Yep.
There's so many questions. Lord God, if you're out there and you want me to be a believer, I have some questions for you about how we fed the snakes.
Skylar, like, just have faith, man. Have faith.
And like, what happened to that talking serpent? Like, is he on there? Like, did he get like? He's like, hey, I know I kind of messed things up at the beginning. I know I may have misled you humans, but I need to get on this boat. I need to make sure that I'll survive, and my species will survive for later on.
Noah's like, bitch, please.
Like, bitch, please. Come on this boat. You already caused enough problems, sir. So many good joke. Old Scratch says 2 of every kind of termite. Oops. Oh my God. I wonder if bacteria, can we get like bacteria on the boat? And I'm thinking too much into this. All right. We're almost done with this chapter. We're going to wrap this shit up for the night because we're almost 12 o'clock. We'll leave with a happy ending when everyone gets off the boat here. Okay. On the very day known as Shem's together wives, all 3 sons entered the ark. They had every wild animal. Okay. The animals going in were male and female, every kind. And then the Lord shut them in. For 40 days and 40, the flood kept coming on earth, and the waters increased. They lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly. You know, think, where's all this water going to, man? Like, the water would go into the boat if it keeps raining. Like, it's going to weigh that boat down and probably sink. But whatever. The waters rose increased greatly in the earth, and the ark flooded on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to the depth more than 15 cubits. I wonder what a cubit is in size.
It's about 18 inches.
What?
About 1.5 feet.
Really? The waters rose and covered the mountain to a depth of more than 15 cubits. But mountains are way bigger than that. Like,
right. It's saying that it went above the mountains.
Oh, I see.
And then more than, which again is how you get that with a local flood.
That's just so obnoxious. Like, you think that this water would be like the water is that high over Everest or something like ridiculous. Every living thing that moved on land perished: birds, livestock, wild animals, the creatures swarmed over the earth, and all mankind. All the babies, all those babies that were on earth, gone. Children, gone. Like, you think about that too. I know this is a very emotional argument, but like you just think about some like poor kid, you know, like, yeah, the culture is violent, it's awful, but he's just like, it's raining a lot. Like, the water's getting kind of high, Dad. Like, don't worry about it. Like, and then eventually everyone drowns, man. All the children, all the kids. Fucking dick move, God. All right, everything on dry land had breath of life, and its nostrils died. What if they don't have nostrils? What if it was something without nostrils? Anyways, every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. That's a lot of days that the earth was flooded. All right, I'm going to read this last one real quick because I just want to kind of round this off. Like, I feel if we get through this last couple verses, when we start next time, Josh, which I'm already signing you up to do the next one.
Awesome.
That we'll be kind of in a roundabout place with a new story. So Genesis 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him on the ark, and he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. Not sure how a wind would recede the waters, but we'll keep going. Now the springs of the deep and the floodgates of the heavens had been closed, and the rain had stopped falling from the sky. Oh, this is where Nephilim Free starts talking about this water that's coming out of the ground, too, that they're talking about these springs, somehow water coming from the ground and being pushed up. The water receded steadily from the earth, and 150 days of water had gone down. And on the 17th day of the 17th month, the ark came to rest on the mountain of Ararat. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month, and the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. After 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the ark and sent out a raven. Interesting, a raven of all birds. And it kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the water had receded from the surface of the ground. Like, why would you switch between a raven and a dove? Really interesting. Like, you can see how this is very symbolic. But the dove could find nowhere to perch because the water all over the surface of the earth. So it returned to the Noah in the ark. He reached out his hand and it took the dove and brought it back to him in the ark. He waited 7 more days and sent out the dove in the ark. When the dove returned to him in the evening, there in its beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. Ooh, found some olives, even though everything was drowned. I don't know how that happened. Then Noah knew of the water had receded from the earth. He waited 7 more days, sent the dove out again, but this time it did not return to him. He was like, fuck this, I'm out. I found dry land, motherfucker. All right, by the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw the surface of the ground was dry. By the 27th day of the 2nd month, the earth was completely dry. 27th day of the 2nd month. I dried up pretty quickly, man. You got some credit here, man. He knows how to dry things up. Then the God said to Noah, come out to the ark, and you and your wife's sons and their wives, bring out everything kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, all the creatures that move along the ground. They can multiply the earth and be fruitful, increase in number of it. So Noah came out together with his sons and his wives and his sons' wives and all the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds and everything that moves on land. Come on out of the ark in kind and one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, taking some of the clean animals and clean birds. He sacrificed burnt offerings on it. What does that mean? You just basically sacrifice them by burning them? Was that what that means when you do a burnt offering?
Yeah, I mean, you kill them and then burn them.
Man, you just fucking save them. Like, what the hell is going on here? Like, you just took the time to get these creatures on your boat, make sure they live by feeding them, and then you killed them as an offering to God. Wasn't there enough sacrifice at this point? Like, didn't we not kill all fucking... Doesn't make any sense, folks. Doesn't make any sense. Good Lord, God. Like, that would not be my first instinct. Like, I find land, I'm like, all right. You know, like, you think about all the food you had to waste on those creatures, and then you're just like, fuck it. I got to kill you. And I got to offer to God. Yeah.
You know, if you think about this in relation to the Mesopotamian story, in Mesopotamia, the people are there to feed and to care for the gods. So these offerings are made to the gods in order to feed them, right? So when Enlil sends this flood and destroys humanity, the gods are sitting there starving, essentially, because there's no more humanity to feed them. And so when Utanapishtim, or when 𝀭Support, the character, comes out, that's what he does. He gives an offering, and it says that the gods swarm around it like flies.
Wow.
So cast some light on, what's going on here.
No, we need it here. We need a little light because this is some insanity going on in the story. So, all right. So they get out. They offer sacrifice. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings to it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and set it in his heart. Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. All right. I want to unpack a couple things before we end this thing here. I find it very interesting that the Lord finds the burnt flesh of animals pleasing. All right. God, Lord, can't you be normal like any other fucking, like burn some incense or something? Like I don't know, like popcorn, like fucking popcorn smells delicious when you cook some popcorn, right? Like gasoline smells weirdly nice. Like we smell gasoline, right? But no, what God does, he's like, I want the flesh of dead animals burnt, and that's what's pleasing to me, right? Fucking weird. All right, so that's strange. Also, I like this little line where it says, and every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. Wow. That's very telling, right? For those of you that don't have children, like Josh and I, it's a very strange concept to think that children are evil. Like, there's no time. Like, don't get me wrong, my fucking children drive me nuts sometimes. Like, let's be real. Let's have a moment of realness here. All right. Yes. Do children drive you crazy? Absolutely. All right. But never do I look at my children and be like, ooh, your heart is evil. Like, you were one evil son of a bitch child. It just doesn't. That's not how we look at things. That's not how we look at children. Right. Like, this is God's creation. This is the creation that God made and planned out. So when you read scripture like this, if you take such a literal interpretation of it, it really doesn't make much sense and makes your God look like a monster when he says these things. All right. I think we've done enough. I think we've done enough Bible tonight. This is actually a really good hangout. This turned out really well, I think. Audience members out there, if you enjoy this, thumbs up the video, share it, tell your friends about my channel, tell your friends about Josh's channel. This is the way that we keep doing things like this. I enjoy doing this. I'm sure Josh enjoys doing this. This is fun stuff for us. I want to make more videos like this. Like I always tell you, I have a Patreon account. If you want to donate and help support my channel, I think I got a new Patreon tonight. I think Shane actually started donating to my channel. But if you don't have the money, which is totally understandable, listen, man, I'm not made of money. Just like the videos, share them, tell people about it, right? Like, that's all I want. Like, come make sure you watch when these things happen. Tomorrow night, what was it? Standing for Truth? Is that the guy's name? Yeah, I think that's his name. He'll be on here tomorrow. Young Earth creationist Ken Hovind fan. That shouldn't be canceled. I'm almost 99% positive he won't cancel. So that will be happening tonight. Monday night, Josh, I don't know if you're around, but we're going to have a birthday extravaganza on my channel, which will be more fun drinking. And if you smoke the MJ, and I won't be doing that live on air. But if other people who watch my channel and want to enjoy that can do that and have some fun and have some laughs, that will be happening. Josh, do you have anything final you want to say? Anything you want to say before we go off air?
No, as always, I really appreciate you having me on. I really appreciate the audience. Guys are fantastic. This is a lot of fun, and just look forward to doing it again.
Thank you, Josh. You what was the word we used earlier? You bring class. You make this Skylar Fiction channel classy with the knowledge in the background. All right, folks. It's been wonderful. Thank you. Tune in tomorrow night for another great discussion. Until next time, subscribe and make the world a better place.